Fox News obtaining an internal memo from CIA Director John Ratcliffe warning, quote, "No adversary in the history of our nation has presented a more formidable challenge or a more capable strategic competitor than the Chinese Communist Party. It is intent on dominating the world."
That threat isn't just down here on Earth, it's also up in space, which is another reason why Greenland is a critical strategic asset for our national security. And it's home to the Pituffik Space Base. With us now is the former NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, also a member of Congress where I served with you, but you are the NASA Administrator. My words, not yours. There is a war going on in space. Our economy cannot exist without what happens in space, but I'm worried about what China and Russia and others are trying to do to take down the America's capability of operating in a peaceful way. Tell us about your perspective there.
Yeah, that's right, Jason. We're using space in ways that most Americans don't realize, but we're using it for our everyday lives, whether it's banking transactions or the power grid, terrestrial wireless networks. We're using space all the time for a timing signal from GPS. And yes, we use it for intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. We use it for communications, nuclear command and control, missile warning, a whole host of capabilities. And to your point on Greenland, we in fact have a Space Force base on Greenland that is critically important for national security when it comes to things like missile warning, but also when you think about space surveillance. We have to know what's happening in space because our lives are dependent on what happens in space. So space surveillance is critical. We do that, of course, from Greenland, but we also do things like space control. Like we have to be able to control our assets that are coming over the North Pole or going over the North Pole one way or the other. And Greenland is critical for all of that. Our resources in Greenland are in fact critical.
Jim, what about China? Where are we with China and China's aggression and what they have been able to develop in terms of the space race or the space war?
Yeah, that's right. So China has seen how we fight wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They've seen us use space for surveillance and reconnaissance, for precision targeting, for remote sensing and imagery. And because of that, they have built capabilities to target space. So we're thinking about things like direct ascent anti-satellite missiles, co-orbital anti-satellite satellites. So we're talking about satellites that kill other satellites. They've developed technologies like jamming and spoofing, dazzling, using lasers to confuse satellites or even directed energy to kill satellites. We use space not just for the warfight, we use it commercially all the time as Americans. China knows that we are dependent on space. They know how space gives us a strategic advantage when it comes to the terrestrial warfight. And so, yes, they are advancing capabilities to destroy space, which is why we need to build resilience. It's why we created the Space Force. By the way, that wouldn't have happened without President Trump's vision to say it needs to happen. And by the way, it needs to happen yesterday. And he got it done faster than you can possibly imagine. So all of these things are important, and our nation needs to be aware that they are important.
We've only got about 45 seconds, but tell us about Taiwan and why this is so important to protecting Taiwan as well.
Yeah, so China has an interest in taking Taiwan. We know that. We see all of the reports. The reason China is interested in Taiwan is because of microchips. The most valuable microchips, 5 nanometers and smaller, are built in Taiwan. In order to take Taiwan, they're going to have to hold us out from Taiwan. So they create this thing called the anti-access area denial kind of capability, things like hypersonic missiles and low observable or stealth missiles and all these other technologies, because they don't want us to have access to defend Taiwan. We have to be able to penetrate their anti-access area denial capabilities. In order to penetrate, we need things like stealth, undersea, and space. Space is a critical enabler for us to penetrate their A2AD capabilities. And so, yeah, we as a nation, we're going to continue developing this, but ultimately we've got to make sure Taiwan is protected.
Jim Bridenstine, former NASA administrator, thank you for sharing that. It is so critical what is going on in space in our everyday lives. Thank you for sharing that.